Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News on the South Florida Conservative News Center. It is Saturday, December 27th, 11:10 a.m. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and are looking forward to spending all your money on New Year's because we need the money down here in Broward and Dade counties. This is part of a request, and hopefully you will find it interesting because somebody had questioned why the amplification of the anti-Semitism amongst the Arabs after so many years of existence. I didn't say peaceful, coexistence. And one of the interesting points that comes up is that this really kicked off in the 30s and 40s. And due to a certain German gentleman, actually an Austrian corporal, and his meeting with a Muslim cleric. So we'll get into this, which is the Nazism or Nazification of Arab slash Islamic racial thought. And basically, we're going to go right now. All right. So in 1944, we had from a radio station in Berlin, a Muslim cleric called on listeners across the Middle East to kill the Jews wherever you find them. 1944. This was not an extremist fringe voice. It was a fellow by the name of the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, broadcasting on behalf of Nazi Germany. Today's episode, we're going to examine a little bit of a very forgotten chapter of World War II history that is not taught very often, often avoided, and that's the ideological alliance between Nazi Germany and segments of political Arab Islam. That's an alliance brought on by shared anti-Semitism, authoritarianism, and violent rejection of pluralism. Sound familiar? This is not an indictment of Arabs or Muslims on the whole. It's a documented historical inquiry into how European genocidal ideology merged with Islamist political theology. Take that. And how that fusion still echoes today. So before the 20th century, go back, Jewish communities in Islamic lands lived under dhimmi, Dhimmi status. It means you were subordinate, but you were generally tolerated. That changed dramatically in the 1930s and 1940s. Nazi Germany introduced something new to the world, which was racial, conspiratorial anti Semitism. The idea that Jews were not just religious outsiders, but a global enemy controlling finance, media, and governments. So when Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf that the Jew was a parasite destroying nations from within, that exact framing would soon appear translated almost word for word into Arabic political discourse. The central figure in this story for the dissemination of this information is Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. After fleeing British authorities, al-Husseini settled in Nazi Germany, where he met personally with Adolf Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, and a few of the other bigwigs. German foreign ministry records have shown him declaring that Arabs and Nazis shared the same enemies, which were the English, the Jews, and the communists. Hitler, in response, promised that once Germany reached the Middle East, its objectives would be the destruction of the Jewish element there. Nothing to do with seas and oil refineries. This was not symbolic diplomacy. Al-Husseini became a propagandist, recruiter, and ideologue for the Third Reich. If there is a thumbnail for this, it'll be showing you an Islamic unit attached to the SS. So they were for real. Okay. From 1941 to 1945, Nazi Germany broadcast daily Arabic language propaganda into the Middle East. In one monitored broadcast from March 1944, al-Husseini declared, "Kill the Jews wherever you find them. This pleases God, history, and religion." Now, that statement survives today in British intelligence transcripts. This was genocidal Nazi ideology delivered in Islamic religious language, transmitted through modern mass media. So you had a complete fusion of all the hate ideas in one spot. Now, our old favorites, the Muslim Brotherhood, that were founded in Egypt in 1928, did not formally ally with the Nazis, but absorbed much of the same worldview. Now, its founder, Hassan al-Banna, wrote during the war that Jews were history's most corrupting element, accusing them of manipulating wars and economies. Brotherhood newspapers in the 1940s echoed classic Nazi tropes: Jews as controllers of finance, media, and governments, ideas foreign to traditional Islamic jurisprudence, but central to Eastern anti Semitism. So they have taken and gone away from the teachings that were involved in the Quran to embrace this Nazi Jew hating stuff. That's the short version. So after the war, al-Husseini was never prosecuted. His ideas survived, carried into post-colonial Islamic movements. Decades later, groups like Hamas would explicitly cite him as a foundational figure. Their charters repeat the same thing: cosmic struggle, religious absolutism, and annihilatory anti-Semitism. It is not a coincidence. It is an ideological inheritance from the war period. The Nazification of Arab political Islam during World War II was real, documented, and consequential. It fused European totalitarian hatred with religious authority. Okay. They created a modern extremist ideology that still destabilizes regions today. So understand this history does not inflame conflict, it clarifies it. And clarity, not denial, is a first step toward confronting extremism honestly. If somebody tells you for a zillion years Islam has wanted all the Jews dead, it's not true. It's a recent occurrence. Maybe they wanted, some of them wanted it gone, but in general is a recent occurrence. Brotherhood may be a little bit different, but Brotherhood would also have killed all the Germans. So that's a little short vignette. Look it up online. If you don't believe me, but only from traditional things, I'll tell you what used to be great and what is actually helpful if you can find them. Time Life Books 1,000 years ago put out a hard book series on World War II, and it was mostly photographs. And in it, you will see pictures of these guys with one was a Turk unit, one was another Eastern Europe, but they were Islamic units that were formed under regular German military and under the German Waffen SS. So this was become dyed in wool into a lot of the Arabic, I guess would be not theocracy, but the way they were operating, the way they were taught to believe at that point skews much heavily away from there are tolerated people, we just don't do a lot with them, to let's kill them all because they own all the television channels. That's what we're talking about here. Good thing to reference, good thing to point out to your local friends who are telling you bullshit during the Free Palestine period. So that's about all for today. Saturday, December 27th, and have a good weekend. Goodbye.